All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes.
So, Jake, I've had my coffee, and so just warning.
Uh-oh.
So
we're in for a treat.
Yes.
Good.
So we appreciate you being here. If this is your first time joining us, this is a podcast.
That's right.
And a YouTube.
And all the other things.
And if you Google Sabbath Lounge, you'll find us in lots of places.
That's right. And we have a website. And so give it a like, give it a subscribe, share it with other people. And especially if you like the content. If you don't, maybe just keep that to yourself. And then, hopefully you find this useful. And someone you share it with will also.
Yeah. And some other little things. We've interviewed a lot of people, some kind of famous and
very famous.
That's right. And we have a pretty lengthy list, and we're always open to interviewing more people. If you have connections or know somebody, send them our way. We'd be happy to interview. And also, I wrote a book, and it's called Becoming Jacob. And so you can purchase that with a link on SabbathLounge.com. And anyway, we're in the middle of a series, and this series is Christians Following Torah. So, Jake, how do you think we came about? How did we get here?
So this kind of started with, so we've done all the apologetics side of things for the most part. We've done a lot of that, where it's giving kind of argumentation on how to get your point across. But part of that is that we want to show that we do have some common ground. It's good to start in a discussion with some common ground. And so a lot of times you'll talk to Christians and they'll say, we don't need to follow that Torah. And it's like, well, you're already following a lot of it. And so this will kind of give you some ammo as to, where you can find commonality and kind of start in the same place.
Yeah.
And show that the Torah isn't some scary thing. It's something they're already doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it also is good for us, I think, in the Torah community to be reminded that, people follow a lot of Torah. It's not like we're the only people that do this.
Yeah.
And but I think that you can see that people are following Torah at different levels, and also just like who'd we interview that talked about the little grandma that might have a better faith than in like modern Christianity? Somebody said that to us in an interview.
It was our buddy from Down Under.
Yeah.
Joel.
Yeah. And he was right about that because, we've all seen there's all kinds of shapes and sizes and flavors of everything, in Christendom to the Torah community. And you get a little bit of everything, but, we can all think of some little old grandma, maybe your own grandma in some church setting that was more righteous and had a pure heart, sometimes than anyone else you've ever met in your life, that just seemed like they were very close to God and prayed and understood his heart. So there's a lot of folks out there like that too. So I thought that was a good perspective to have.
Right. So what I hear you saying, Matt, is there are many ways to the Father, many ways to be saved, right? Is that...
Many ways to be saved.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would buy all of that.
No, there's one way, right?
Yep.
One way through the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't worry. We're not getting all, we're not getting all, welcome everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's no, we know there's some commonality here. We come from a faith that was church going, standard Christian faith. And that's where, I feel like I was saved. Matt feels like he was saved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think this is once you get to Torah, it's you're kind of amping up that faith. I know, especially when I started off, before Torah, I felt like I was loving Yah. I felt like I was considering him in all the things I did. But, it wasn't until after I saw the light of Torah that I was like, oh, I wasn't this whole time, and I thought I was. So, just kind of interesting perspectives. Just let people have their own journey. We're all on the journey, and let people have their own journey.
Yep. Yeah, and just like what you say, don't dump the
whole bag of seed on them at one time. That's not how you grow a garden.
Yep. Yeah. I guess you could try it, but then I don't think it's going to work very good.
Yeah.
He's going to be you might say, a mixed bag. Okay. Enough of those.
That's right.
So we're in Leviticus. And so I think this is about episode number 6. It's kind of hard to keep count, but this will be in a playlist that you can watch for hours on end. We encourage it.
Yep.
So, but this is Leviticus, and we've done Genesis and Exodus, and now going into Leviticus. And so we're going to bring out these scriptures and kind of talk about how see the universalism, if you will. And I do not mean that in some weird spiritual meaning, but just a universal principle that almost everyone that calls themselves a Christian faith of some kind, they're probably going to agree with these.
Right.
So this first one is Leviticus 5:3. If you become unclean by touching human uncleanness of any kind and then ignore it, then this is
although you know what you did.
Yeah, you will be guilty. So
yeah.
And so I think that's pretty universal, that people would say, at least, wash your hands after you touch human uncleanliness. That's pretty common. And what all could that be? I don't think we have to list it here.
Right.
I think you can let your imagination run wild.
Yeah.
So
put it in the comment.
Yes. Use emojis.
Right.
No.
Don't do that. Okay. So
but there's a long list of human uncleanliness, and especially mothers of small children live in this world too, because children often like to touch all kinds of human uncleanliness of all kinds.
That's right. They're always unclean.
Yeah.
So I like how it's, if you ignore it, you'll be guilty, even though you know what you did. You know what you did.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't.
Mm-hmm. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
Yep. That seems.
So don't pretend you don't know what you did.
That's right.
Because he finds that to be bad, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 5:4. If you hastily take a vow about what you will or will not do, as some people do, and then ignore it, although you know what you said, you will be guilty. So, I think, let your yes be yes, your no be no, be a man of your word.
Mm-hmm.
I think we play by those rules, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a time in society and culture, especially in rural America and Texas, no exception, when people would tell you, well, I shook his hand, it's a done deal. When I shake your hand and say yes, it's like gold. So that was common and still practiced today. But I have found through business relationships, yes, I can shake your hand, but I still like things in writing.
Yeah.
And mostly for me anymore, it's to help every party remember. Because sometimes if you just have oral agreements with people, then later you're like, what did we say? And neither one of you remember, or you remember bits and pieces of it. And
or you'll remember differently.
Yes. And so I find it's better to write it all down and maybe sign it, and then save it away. And then when that conversation comes back up again, you go like, oh, that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
So, but I think most people want their children to grow up and their word to mean something. If your kid says, hey, I'm going to clean the room, and they don't, then their word means nothing.
Yeah, I think nowadays people fling their promises around willy-nilly. I know in my house we make it a point teach our children, don't even say, I promise I'll do something, because either just say you will and do it, or say you won't and don't do it. It's, once you start promising, it's, it's a vow in a way. But if you, fall back from that promise you made, you will be guilty.
Yeah, that's what it says right there. Well, and some old timers would say, if the good Lord's willing and a creek don't rise. So
yeah, they're kind of putting the caveat in there.
It's an act of God clause,
right?
So, and which is not a bad thing, It does, yeah.
You're acknowledging your limitations on seeing the future.
Yeah.
I think, and I think another thing that happens these days is we're so inundated with things to do, and we always want to like do more and do things for people. And it can come out of, a good place, but not being able to tell someone, no, I got too much on my plate, I can't do that. But then you like over promise because you didn't want to tell someone no.
Yeah.
I think we get into that kind of issue a lot too.
Yeah, over promise and under deliver. And it always creates an expectation gap and leaves people with a sour taste in their mouth. And maybe a misrepresentation of yourself.
Right.
Because now it may not be true, but they may believe you're not someone of your word, even though you made a mistake. It doesn't mean you're not a person of your word. You just, you made a mistake.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah. So it looks like you can't be counted on, and it looks like, you're wishy-washy. And, when we're representing Yahweh, he doesn't want us to look wishy-washy. He doesn't want us to look like we can't stick to what we say, because he sticks to what he says. And if we're going to represent him, we should also. And that's why this guilt applies to it, because you're stepping outside of the character of Yah by doing that.
And, you can apply this to marriage vows, clearly. So, and a marriage vow should not hastily be taken. And there are people, unfortunately, that have done that, that went to Vegas on a whim or something. And, not if you got, I'm not saying if you got married in Vegas, that's bad, but there are some people who have hastily made these decisions, maybe with liquid courage has enabled them, and they've done it in haste, and then later it doesn't work out. And they didn't take that vow serious.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the scripture that we read about in those Torah portions about Aaron's sons who may have been drunk on the strange fire. They didn't take it serious. And, it's you take this stuff serious.
Yeah. I think too, when you get into that situation, by the time you're like through it, the whole, I was too quick with my wedding situation. It's like, well, too bad. I mean, you made the decision. Now you have to make it work. I mean, unless there's like some kind of disqualifying event or something like that. But, both of you have to be of the mindset of, well, too bad. I made this, you can't just be upset about the situation and then, screw it all up because you're unhappy with the situation. It's like, well, you made the decision.
That you made.
Yeah. Love is a choice. Okay. So choose to love this person that you promised your life to, So it's a vow.
Yeah. And confession of sins, Leviticus 5:5. So if you're guilty of any of these sins, you must confess it. Look, Exhibit A, Catholic Church. They went in a place that I think is unhealthy, really. To put the single man priest, give him all these weird secrets and these confessions from these people, of all these sometimes very private, or I don't know, just I don't think it was meant to be like that. Now it does say confess one to another, but it's supposed to be a continual thing for us with him, because if we're honest with ourselves, there's so many things that we do on the daily in our heart and mind so fast. It's like, yeah, we got to be doing this all the time.
Yeah, and Matt's always like, Jake, stop calling me.
That's right.
All the time.
That's right.
Just save them up for Shabbat and tell me then.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. But
I'm making that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, with the Catholic Church, they turned it into, well, if you go do this and this and that, you'll be absolved of your sins. And it's, again, I don't think that's the way it's meant to be. I don't see that in Scripture anywhere. But
and I think too, then you get all these priests that do weird things. And I'm not saying that it was because they listened to all this stuff, but it didn't help.
Right.
When all these
that is a good point.
When all these guys are telling them these weird things, and I mean, yeah, it just is like, yeah, what did you guys think was going to happen here?
Yeah,
he just fed them a diet of it's like, when you think about it, in some ways, unfortunately, some of these guys, it was probably like looking at pornography or whatever you want to name, and on the daily, but it was coming to their ears.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely doesn't seem like a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you got the guy comes to the booth and says, I've been taking advantage of my mom because every time I ask her for drugs, she just gives them to me. And then the pastor guy, he's like, I know where to get some drugs now.
Yes, yeah, he learns all the secrets.
I think that's the point you're making, right?
Yeah, that and just all the terrible things people do, and it is kind of like watching. It'd be like watching things you shouldn't watch.
Yeah,
probably a long list of multiple things.
Yeah, and outside of the Catholic churches, just the normie evangelical side of things, or any of the other denominations, I think make a big deal about going through, because this is repeated in the New Testament, and they don't skip over it there. So I believe it's carried through.
Well,
so they talk about it,
the walk of shame, and so I think sometimes it goes too far the other way too. So you got the Catholic Church model, and then you have the Christian church model, where it's almost like all eyes are on the front, and they're like, "Oh, what Brother Bart do? Oh my goodness, I saw his truck down at such and such. I bet it was something with that." I mean, that happens, especially in little churches, and then they judge people, and here it is. It's actually, it is something. There's an element of doing some of these things with your brethren that needs to be done, but sometimes it is used as a stick to beat them with, I guess.
Yeah,
unfairly.
I think this
and
is
that
one
makes
of those,
people not want to do it.
Right. I think this is one of those things we always apply that to someone else. Yeah, Matt.
Yeah,
you're guilty of something. You need to confess it. And it's like, well, I'm not going to confess mine. You know what I mean? Or me knowing this, and then you come to me and say, I have to confess something. I should be like, he's following this. He's repentant in some way. And I need to take that maturely and do something, with that, you're building a relationship of trust. And if, you can't trust someone with, your failures, then we need to be, approachable and not just beat people down with what they've failed at. Yeah.
And most of us that are married have a perfect built-in thing, there's, you have somebody that you can confess to. You live with them on a regular basis, and they know you better than anyone. And, but yeah, it's interesting there's kind of my mind is racing, I guess, with all the, the good and the bad that can come through this, and how maybe it's been misused and misapplied. So, but that's how I always thought about it, the walk of shame that we used to have, that, there'd be, at the end of church, they would sing "Just as I Am." Just most people just do like verse 1 and 3 of "Just as I Am." But boy, if there's something stirring, that day, they may sing all 6 verses, and they may repeat verse 6 again or something, and keep give people a little more time, see who we can get to come down. We keep singing this song, eventually we'll get more of these sinners up here at the front confessing. So
yeah, it's like, oh, I know that guy did something.
Yes.
So I'm just going to keep this going until he comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah, no. All right, Ray, put in the comments if you've ever been in a church that was like that, where they called it the walk of shame.
Also, put all of your sins in the comments.
Yeah, please don't. All right, so this one's yours.
Leviticus 6:2. If any of you sin against Yahweh by failing to do your duty, if you lie to your neighbor about something you are supposed to take care of, or if you lie about something stolen or seized from your neighbor, you are sinning and will be guilty. This seems pretty straightforward. I mean, don't steal and lie about it.
Yeah, and when you read through these, you can't help but think of children. And, we are children. He calls us his children. He called them the children of Israel. And I would like to be called that as well. I'm not saying that I'm not. But yeah, so it is like something you would do with children.
Yeah.
It seems so basic.
I like how he includes, it's like a task that you're promising to do, or something like that, and you're, you don't do it,
Yeah, and
you make some excuse about why you didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, and then also this thing about stolen or seized from your neighbor. I'm like, I don't know. How many times in my life have I stolen something from my neighbor? I don't know.
Who's your neighbor, man?
That's right. Who's your neighbor? And but it also, in this particular version, you seized from your neighbor. Maybe that's you borrowed something, you never gave it back. I mean, that's stealing. If you take it and never give it back, that becomes not borrowing anymore.
Right.
And unfortunately, we've all probably borrowed something, and if it stays with you long enough, you don't even remember where it came from. And
I get the hint. I get the hint, Matt.
Yeah,
you'll get it back. Okay.
But yeah, I think most people have no problem with this and would teach their children not to lie and not to steal. I think that's pretty universal. I don't know many families that I've even seen that had that were atheists or something. They teach their children to tell the truth. So
yeah,
I think this is definitely one of those that kind of crosses over into universal, worldwide. Most parents in the world are going to teach their child that, unless they're straight up criminals, I guess.
Unless it's the media.
The media.
Okay. Is this you? Are you up?
Lies 6:3. If you find something that someone lost and lie about it under oath, or commit any other sin like this. So once again, another lying situation. And it sounds like finders keeper kind of thing, that somebody said, I lost this, and you find it and you're like, I never saw that.
Yeah.
And it's hiding under your chair.
Yep. I like how they put it in like a court context here. If you lie about it under oath.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be sworn in when you go ask someone first if they're lying about something.
Yeah.
And then 6:5, or whatever it was that you swore falsely about, pay it back in full plus 1/5 more. Give it back to its owner on the day you bring your guilt offering.
And this has popped up several times. It was in Exodus. There were several things about restitution there as well.
Right.
And I think most people, you could ask a lot of people, especially people over 50, probably, they would tell you that restitution, they've seen that witnessed, and it's a good thing, in our society. And it's something that kind of has been dropped, I think, a lot. You think about back in the day when people were in prison. I'm not this old, but there was some restitution sometimes, and they had to work highway detail, and or even the folks here in America that worked for the TVA or the Civilian Corps, the CCC, and all the structures they built, and they were paying off a debt. Where they needed help from the government, and they joined this, and then there was a restitution they had to pay to kind of pay it back. That our country has been better when we kind of had this mindset of that there was this restitution you had to pay back to society for something. And if you break something, you got to go fix it. You got to go, you take your car and careen through the farmer's fence. Today, the insurance company probably just pays for it. But, back in the day, you might have to get out there and physically go build that guy's fence.
Yeah. That's what all the Hallmark movies have taught me is
That's
you
right.
go build the fence for them, and then you become best friends.
Yes.
And then
next thing you know, you're drinking pumpkin spice latte.
Right. And then you marry the guy's daughter whose fence you destroyed. And they all know how to build the fence. They don't just, oh, yes, you ruined my fence, come build it. And they're terrible fence builders.
Yes.
You're like, wait a minute, this is
the worst
is not
fence
working.
ever.
Yeah, it's worse
Do you
than
know
when
what a fence is?
You might as well just run this over again because it'll be better that way.
Uh-huh. Well,
I think all that ties in.
It does. Perfect. I can see you watch a lot of Hallmark movies.
So. Back in the day. Yeah. I think it was all that was on during Christmas, wasn't it?
I don't know. I didn't watch it. But the whole thing about restitution too, if we applied those kinds of principles in our society more, there'd probably be less nonsense, because it's not fun when you got to go fix it.
Right.
It's fun to be a moron and take your baseball bat and hit the mailbox or whatever. But when you got to go back and fix all that, then it kind of stinks. Yeah. Like, this is not fun.
Yeah, that wasn't worth it.
So it's much better just to not do it. But when there's no consequence, then, people are like, whatever, you can do nothing. It's like, all these states that have taken shoplifting, there's no, there's definitely no restitution there.
Right.
And people are like, whatever, I'm taking this out. Catch me if you can.
Right.
And they don't even get chased.
Well, you could get hurt chasing someone, Matt.
Yeah. Speaking of restitution, I heard something really creepy. This guy I follow on the social media, he was talking about that AI cameras watching everything and logging, and just saying that, like, when you check out at the grocery store, AI is going to start assisting at the self checks, and it's going to start keeping up with maybe things that you don't pay for, that you get away with. And then, he was just theorizing. He's like, what if they just keep up with this, and then when you have stolen enough that it becomes like a misdemeanor, then they go pursue it, and they have all the photo evidence of you stealing. I was like, oof, that's can we stop talking about AI?
Right.
This is bothering me.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, definitely, and it's one of those. Yeah, it's definitely a weird thing happening in our world. But anyway, I don't know what that had to do with restitution other than stealing.
Hey, steal stuff and then give it back.
Yeah,
plus more.
Yeah.
All right, Leviticus 10:10 on holiness. Teach them the difference between what is holy and what is unholy, what is clean and what is unclean. So, yeah, I don't see a lot of, when I grew up, there was definitely we were taught a difference between holy is good stuff, unholy is not good stuff. But now the definition of what is clean and unclean, is definitely dependent, but there is, should be some distinction. I know the verse that says they no longer teach the difference between what is clean and unclean, right? Is that Jeremiah? I feel like. Anyway, someone can put it in the comments. I don't have my address right on me, but point being that they no longer distinguish between clean and unclean. It's talking about the pastors of the day, basically the teachers of the day, but or the priests. Anyway, so there is a difference between what you would consider clean, what you would consider unclean. I mean, we will get into, if you're, like we talked about earlier, if you're touching some kind of uncleanness of a person, people are going to wash their hands.
Normal people.
Right.
We don't want to think about the people that don't, that I just shook their hand.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this is a matter of degrees. I think no one who is claiming to follow Scripture is out there necessarily promoting unholiness.
Yeah,
in their understanding.
But I think you're right. Definitions of what's holy, what's unholy, what's clean and unclean, they do vary, but we don't feel like they do because we feel like the Torah is your standard on that. But if you don't have the Torah as your standard on that, then yeah, I think you go into things like, you've heard the expression before, a sacred cow, which is really probably connected to Hinduism or something.
Maybe.
But we probably have all said that, to have the sacred cow. And to me, that's something that, another word for saying something's holy. And, sometimes families even will have like this sacred cow thing, this holy set apart thing that you don't even mention, because someone's going to come unglued or whatever, it's going to open up this can of worms. That's kind of, a version of that might be in a family, but it doesn't necessarily fall under a biblical definition.
Yeah.
But I do think the concept of, widely accepted of, there are some things that are wholly set apart and there's this clean and unclean. But I do think people's definitions are very, very widely.
Yeah.
But it's a good conversation, to have with someone and make them think about, what their standard is, what their definition is. If you want to be like Andrew LeClaire.
Yeah. And it's always good to bring it back to, who gets to set the standard.
Yeah.
Because, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes in these discussions, people forget and they start, defending a position rather than looking for truth.
Yeah.
And what is being said. So,
yeah, that's a good point. More cleanliness.
All right. 11:37 Leviticus. If their dead bodies fall on seed that is to be planted, the seed is clean. It's clean.
Mm-hmm. And I think if Andrew LeClaire, speaking of him, Sabbath Lounge's own, if he set up and started asking this on man on the street, I think most people would be like, yeah, that seed's unclean. And, maybe. Yeah, I think I know I would on initial without knowing the Scripture. That's what I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when you read through this section, it's talking about when dead bodies fall on stuff, and then it goes, but if it falls on the seed, it's clean, and it has other things. It's unclean, but so yeah, it for me and Matt. I think you mentioned as well. Like whenever this comes up, it's like. You think it's going to say it makes it unclean, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that also kind of I know that people have debated before, like using humanure. Is that what you call it?
That's what you call it. Yes, that's
where
what it's
where
called.
you recycle your own waste and not have a septic or pay to have it hauled away. And I think you could apply that logic here, and I think that's what some people do. It's makes sense. That if the dead body doesn't make the seed unclean, then there's probably, what makes a seed unclean, what scripture describes when the seed becomes unclean. I don't know that there's anything mentioned about a seed becoming unclean.
I think it does. I think it talks about if it's if the seed is wet and something happens to it, I think it can be unclean. But again, it's right in this section, so we can go check it out. But put
in the comments if you know that, or Jake. So we're talking to future Jake.
That's right.
Maybe you can find that when this comes up and
put it
throw
in the comments.
There.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people use the human manure on like trees, like to feed their trees instead of like garden plants, unless maybe it's been burning for like a year. But yeah. Another thing about this is compost is made up of a lot of dead things.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how you build your compost.
Right.
I tend to think that you can put animal products in your compost.
Oh, you can for sure. You got to get it hot though,
right?
And you got to keep
that'll help it get hot.
yeah. You have to keep the critters out of it that might drag that out of there, make a mess.
I know early on when we first started looking at composting, they're like, only put greens and brown, and don't ever put foods like don't put like animal waste scraps and not like poop and stuff. I mean like carcass stuff. But it's like, well, there's bone meal and blood meal and all this stuff you enhance your garden with. So yeah, as long as you do it right, go ahead, throw them chicken carcasses in there if your freezer is full.
Yeah. Sounds like you speak from personal experience.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I knew a guy that had a compost pile so hot, because I'm actually a master composter, and but it was so hot that they threw a cow in it, and within a short, as a dead cow, not a live cow, but it there was nothing left but bones after just like less than a month.
Yeah,
there were so many microorganisms in that compost that it just cleaned it up.
Yeah, bones take a while.
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. All right, and then this is something we're familiar with from the recent world events in Leviticus 13:45. People who come down with a skin disease must wear torn clothes and leave their hair uncombed. They must cover their lips and call out, "Unclean, unclean." And it kind of sounds like leprosy here. But it's interesting because during COVID, you saw we quarantined the healthy. We quarantined the people that didn't have any symptoms, but that completely went against Scripture, because in Scripture, it's the people who are sick, they get quarantined.
Right. Yeah, I think interesting about this is think about this the opposite way. If you're not sick, right? You don't have the skin disease. What are you wearing? You're well kept.
Yeah.
Your hair is combed. Your clothes are in good shape. Take care of yourself, right? It's not a bad thing to do yourself up and make yourself presentable.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, because some people kind of go far the other way and like, whatever. That used to be young Matt Cook, didn't care. So some might still say that's true to a certain extent, but
like have some self-respect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Every girl's crazy about a sharp dressed man.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. Okay, mold remediation. Leviticus 14:42-45. The stones, this is if they have mold on them, the stones must be replaced and the house must be plastered again. If the mildew develops again in the house after all this, the priest will examine it one more time. If it is a spreading type of mildew, the house is unclean. The house stones, wood, and all the plaster must be torn down and taken to an unclean place outside the city. Take it to the dump.
To the dump, to the dump, to the dump.
That's right.
Yeah, and how many commercials on TV have we seen talking, and how many service providers are there out there that do this very thing? And it's become a thing, and so many people have gotten sick and gotten these terrible sickness and diseases that they can just never get rid of, that comes from being around this mold
Spores.
So, I made the mistake recently of encountering some of this.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted a piece of toast one morning, and the
Unclean.
whole that's right, I'm confessing my sins. This loaf of bread had one had like one piece in the sack. It hadn't even opened it, molded.
Oh.
And I was like, I picked that one out and threw it away. And then I made me some toast with it. Man, my stomach was not right for 2 weeks, I think. So things weren't right. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have eaten the moldy bread.
Was it worth it, Matt, to save that 10 cents?
No, it was not worth
that one slice of bread.
I don't recommend it. But I remember as a kid, we were poor, and I remember taking the mold off the piece of bread and then eating it, that was sometimes what we had to do. And I don't ever remember feeling sick from it, but
yeah, one time. So
and cheese is just mold.
It's straight mold. I don't know if that's exactly correct, but some of it is. Blue cheese is, right? But anyway, when I was a kid, if the bread went moldy, you went out and fed the birds with it. And I was tasked with going out to feed the birds with the bread. And it was kind of, I don't know, midday before lunch. And so I one for the birds, one for me, one for the birds, one for me. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. I'm out here feeding this to the birds for a reason. I don't think anything happened. I don't remember the effects of that, but I do remember eating way too much moldy bread.
Well, it's interesting that this is still practiced, because my sister-in-law, they're building a fancy new house, and this happened in their house. There was a section of mold in the sheetrock. They think that it was all the sheetrock that came in maybe before the house was roofed or something, and they had stored it there, and some mold got on it, and they used it, and then they pointed it out to the builder, and the builder cut it out and redid it.
Yep.
And because the builder certainly didn't want the liability,
right,
of them saying, our house is moldy because he used moldy products.
You should just paint it over it.
Yes, that's what kills us for.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly.
That kills everything. That's what the landlord says.
Yeah.
So got the landlord special right here.
Says kills right on it.
So you ever had the landlord special? That's like a coat of paint and and you're move-in ready.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And maybe clean the carpet if you're lucky.
Yep. Or you move the furniture, the furniture that stays. You put it over the stains on the carpet.
Yes.
Okay.
My turn. Your turn.
Go ahead.
This is bodily discharges, Leviticus 15. The one to be cleansed must wash his clothes, shave off his hair, and wash. Then he'll be clean. After that, he may go to camp. However, for 7 days, he will live outside the tent. On the seventh day, he must shave off all the hair of his head, his beard, his eyebrows, and he must wash his clothes and body. Then he'll be clean. So, yeah, I think most people appreciate in the world, appreciate if you wash your hands and things after bodily discharges, for sure.
Yeah. I think this is going into like some specific discharges of the body.
Yes.
Yeah. So this isn't like, oh, I poked my finger and now
I'm discharging blood.
Yeah.
Although there are rules about the blood.
Yes. Otherwise, we'd have a lot of people shaving their heads and waiting around for 7 days to be clean, living outside.
Yeah. We don't see that every day, do we?
No.
Now, we might see it every day, but it might not be for this.
Right.
Might be different reasons. But anyway, for sure. And you definitely want the guy that made your sandwich at Subway to have washed his hands when he's making that sandwich.
That's right.
Or at least wear the little gloves. So, little thin gloves. I could not make it because my hands sweat. And that would be, I can tell you, that's pretty gross. And start dripping the hand sweat in my sandwich.
Man.
People would get in my line.
We're not sponsored by Subway. And
Yes.
and now we never will be.
That's right. We've ruined that. All right.
Another
foiled sponsorship.
Another sponsor. Foiled by Matt.
Maybe soiled would be the better choice.
Soiled by Matt. Discharged by Matt.
Okay.
Scapegoat. Leviticus 16:20. When he finishes making peace with Yahweh at the holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he will bring the living goat forward. Aaron will place both hands on its head. He will confess over it all the sins, all the rebellious acts, and all the things the Israelites did wrong. He will transfer them to the goat's head. A man will be appointed to release the goat in the desert. The goat will take all their sins away to a deserted place. A man must release the goat in the desert. So, can't confess the sins on the goat if you don't confess them to the priest, right?
Yeah. And that is for sure where the Catholics, get that idea that we were talking about earlier. But these priests, the difference is these priests were kind of actually commanded to be married, and
to be priests.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I think that's where they went wrong. And Catholicism is forbidding those men to not marry, and then that was they should marry anyway. But this idea of scapegoat, you hear that all the time. People will talk about that. They're the scapegoat or whatever. And this is used in businesses. It's used all over the place, and sometimes people don't even know this Leviticus 16 context. They kind of understand that there's a goat that escapes and is free, but I don't think they really know the story for most people.
Escape goat, right? Yeah, I was talking with someone recently, raised in church, did not understand that scapegoat came from Leviticus, came from the Bible.
Yeah.
That concept.
Did they attribute it to something else, or they just had no idea?
Probably just didn't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of that. Maybe we should do a whole episode on phrases that we use today that originated from Scripture.
Yeah.
Number one, scapegoat. All right.
Write that down. And don't live like pagans. Leviticus 18:18. Yahweh spoke to Moses, tell the Israelites, I am Yahweh your Elohim. You used to live in Egypt. Don't live the way the Egyptians do. I'm bringing you to Canaan. Don't live the way the Canaanites do. Never live by their standards. Follow my rules. Live by my standards. I am your Yahweh, your Elohim. Live by my standards. Obey my rules, and you'll have a long life through them. I am Yahweh. And I do think most people do believe that they don't want their children to live like the pagans. But like you were saying earlier, sometimes the definition of what is pagan varies. We don't think it varies, but
right.
If you don't have a good grounding, you can kind of define pagan by however you want to, which most people would define it as whatever
some false religion is doing,
or whatever we decide is it's not like us. That's pagan.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Don't live the way the Egyptians do. You used to live there, so you know what they did. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't live the way the Canaanites do. Yeah.
But I think what kind of sets us apart in this movement, which I believe is from the Father, is we're trying to follow His rules, live by His standards, and not the standards and the definition of what man says, because that's what this is about. The Canaanites and the Egyptians are the men,
the world, right?
The religions of the day that defined those things, and He's like, no, I define it, and you follow what I say.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the clean and unclean thing where we talked about, who has the ability to make the standard, and it's Yahweh, right? He's the standard bearer. He's the arbiter of truth and morality. So He gets to say.
Yeah. That's good. Don't live like the pagan. All right, and then here comes everyone's favorite topic, I guess, or not really. I was trying to see. Usually it says how much time we're at. I don't know what our time is. But Leviticus,
looks like our camera has. Here's our time.
Okay, there it is. Camera died.
Huh.
So it probably ran out of juice.
No go juice in the camera.
So maybe that wasn't being charged, and I thought it was. Well, sorry you can't see our shining face anymore.
That's right.
Good.
It was
catch,
good while
Jake.
it lasted.
So I'm going to keep that there, though.
It probably happened like half hour ago.
Probably did. Well, in Leviticus 18, you've got all these rules. So, Jake, this one's yours.
Don't have the sexual relations with the following people. Also, see our, what was that?
Father's Day episode.
Blood relatives, mother, father's wife, children, grandchildren, aunt or uncle, daughter-in-law, father-in-law, mother and daughter, 2 sisters, woman on her bicycle, wife of neighbor, no homosexual, no beast.
Yeah, and I think for most of these, most people would be like, yeah, that's gross. Don't do those things unless you're in like some weird cult or something.
Right.
But yeah.
And this is, let's see, go back one. I think you went the wrong way somehow. Okay. A lot of this is what makes sense for the 6-day people argument, because you would have to break a lot of this.
Yeah.
If it was just Adam and Eve starting out. At least when you get to Noah and his children, there's several bloodlines going on there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Excellent point, actually. Yeah. But I do think this is universal. Most societies, most cultures would agree, regardless of their religion, regardless of whatever their culture. Most people would go like, avoid all of these things at all cost.
And to me, this is the strongest evidence for 6-day people.
Yeah.
Like, I know you can play games with the way it's written in Genesis and all that stuff, but once you get to here, this kind of seals it for me. Yeah.
Because Yahweh would be contradicting this rule, and if it's true now, then it's always been true.
Right.
So
yeah, and we had when we talked to Sean Griffin, we brought this up, the 6-day people, and I remember someone in his chat was saying, so the point I made was that if there were not 6-day people, and Yahweh calls this scenario here relations with blood relatives a sin, then the design he put in place requires you to sin. Right? So that's the point I was making. But they took it like I was saying that, they're saying Yahweh requires us to sin. in his design.
Oh, I
And I'm
remember
like,
that.
well, no, I was saying the exact
Mhm.
opposite of that. So
Yeah.
so it's easy for
Mm.
people to get turned around on stuff, I guess. But yeah, I think that's a strong point that you can make to people.
Yeah.
And if you have an argument as to why there aren't 6-day people that addresses this, put them in the comments.
Yeah, we'd like to hear that. And you probably didn't think that would come up here, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, study that out too if you haven't before. And that also the concept of the law before the law. The law existed before, and so people don't say that. And I think there's a lot of Jewish people, a lot of Christian people would say, yeah, it doesn't exist till Moses on Mount Sinai, but I do believe these rules pre-existed all of those things.
Right. Or they'll give like a progression of law giving, like Noah and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to think too, you have to look also at Job, which is before Moses, supposedly, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of laws given in Job as well. So
yeah, especially all these men that we see before the law, knowing how to make sacrifices and the right way to do them. And, there's a pretty long list of people that did a sacrifice and it was pleasing to Yahweh and how they did it. And that's before Moses.
Right. And I think a strong one is Abraham saying that, or the Pharaoh saying that Abraham is causing him to sin against Yahweh by the trickery with Sarah.
Yeah.
Same thing with Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all these concepts come up before Mount Sinai. Sinai is a resetting of what his ways are, because they've been lost, because they're in a pagan nation.
Yeah, they've been forgotten and had to be called back to the roots, almost just like us today.
Exactly.
So
good point. I was going to say that
we are definitely that, and it's exciting to know that that's happening again.
Yep.
And the sacrifice thing, Leviticus 18:21, never give your children as a sacrifice to God, Molech specifically, by burning them alive. If you do, you're dishonoring the name of your Elohim. I am Yahweh. So, I don't see anybody out there now, although, but most people would say, yes, do not burn your children, and
especially alive.
Yes.
Right.
And we've seen it in movies, and even Hollywood portrays this as a negative thing,
right?
And not good, not recommended, all the way back to the beginning of film with Indiana Jones. So that's the beginning of film.
That's right. That's when it all started.
That's right. But yeah, but we have seen this play out in abortion, and so people have done this. Did they burn them alive? Yes. So, when they wash the baby with salt, that's a type of burning, that it's a chemical burn. And so, and they're actually doing that in the mother's womb. So,
right.
So
good point.
It is almost the exact same thing. So, and most of you listening to this are going to be against abortion, but, and I know that seems to be less controversial than it used to be, thankfully.
Right.
So, but I know there's still people that want to bring it back.
Yep. Well, what's funny is, interestingly, at the time of this recording, there's, it's going through the Supreme Court, I believe, about the abortion pills by mail, and they're trying to make that illegal, I believe.
I was thinking that was connected to a Texas case, actually.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's one of those things where it does with interstate commerce laws and things. So it gets complicated. All right, more rules to live by.
Honor your parents. Keep Sabbath. Make idols. don't. I think it means don't have idols, right?
Yes, not have idols.
Give to the poor. Don't steal. Don't swear. Fair wages. Don't mistreat the deaf and blind. No impartiality. No slander. Don't hold hate in your heart. Love your neighbor. Treat servants fairly. No magic or soothsaying. Don't eat blood. No cutting for the dead. Don't let your daughter be the harlot. And don't use mediums.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these, obviously, the Sabbath, some people define that differently and define it the way we used to. And then also the medium thing, that one used to be pretty universal, but I feel like it's kind of bending a little bit.
You know what really put the squash to don't use mediums? How it was being put down, but you know what did away with that was when the Super Size Me movie came out. McDonald's was single-handedly saying no mediums. It's supersized.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when they were supersizing everything, there was no mediums. But then Super Size Me came out and made McDonald's look a fool. And so now everything's mediums.
That's right. Yeah. That's everywhere. And that got proved to be a sham.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So he made that movie and he was an alcoholic or something. And his symptoms that he was talking about that he wanted to trace back to the food had everything to do with his alcoholism. And unfortunately, he is no longer with us on this planet. So I thought that was kind of interesting because that movie did have an impact on me. I thought it was, he definitely told some truth in it.
So Matt's saying bring back supersized meals at McDonald's.
That's right.
Only supersized for Matt.
That's right.
He's bringing no mediums. He's taking this to heart.
No mediums.
Don't hold hate in your heart. Fill it with cholesterol.
That's right. Fill it with sugar, corn syrup.
Yeah.
Especially from McDonald's. But yeah, I think a lot of these, people don't have any issue.
It's funny. Go back one. The no magic thing. I think there was a big split on the whole Harry Potter thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like some people were like very, holding the line. No, it's magic. You kids shouldn't be reading that Harry Potter.
You young whippersnappers.
Yep. And then some people were like, it's, it has the other side of it was, well, no, it has a very kind of allegorically Christian message in it. Right. I mean, same thing with Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're like, oh, well, magic we can make it good. I mean, same with Lord of the Rings, right? And,
talking animals on Disney.
Well, that was biblical.
No, okay.
There were,
donkey.
Yeah. And a snake. And,
yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as I know. Yeah. Well,
a dragon.
Yeah.
So see, Matt?
No. No, that is good. But I do think people, they, especially with the magic thing, I think that's something that differentiates us from traditional Christianity in a lot of ways, because I feel like traditional Christianity justifies that a little bit more than we do. Yeah. Especially with Disney and doing all those things. And we look at those and go, right, it's dangerous. And in Harry Potter, and I can see nothing but bad fruit that came out of the Harry Potter thing, and families that embraced it and let their kids dress up and play the imaginary game that they had in there. I don't even remember what it's called. Starts with an S maybe or something.
Quidditch?
Yeah. And they promoted those kinds of things. And
the S is silent.
Yes. Yeah, I guess so. It's that silent S. Squiddish. Maybe I thought it was Squiddish.
You know what's funny is I worked in Pittsburgh, and we had people come in, like people co-op with the company, and I'm like full-time with the company. These kids come in to like college kids to intern with the company, and I'm teaching them how to like fix an airplane, and they're like, okay, after work, I'm going to go pretend I'm riding a broom, and it's awesome. You want to join me? I'm like, what are we doing here? Aren't we adults? What? Yeah. You have a job now. Why are you out riding brooms?
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. This whole thing came up, and I guess it's pretty big. People like to run around on their brooms, pretending they're
no thanks.
Pretending they're
well. In my experience, I've seen a lot of families that go down this path and allow their children to read all those things and take part of it. I think it is a direct connection to LGBTQ and all those things. And I feel like magic is connected to all that.
Probably.
For sure. And it's like, you're inviting things that just shouldn't be invited into your house. And so if you're doing that, please, don't do that. Don't allow your children to do those things, and get rid of that stuff.
Yeah. And I think another difference would be that we would pull go down the trail of pharmakia and add that to the no magic as well. Whereas I don't think the church necessarily goes that way with it.
Yeah.
This one's funny though. The don't eat blood is funny to me because the church will say, no, we can eat anything now, right? And you'll even see people go visit, like missionary to the tribes.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll like drink blood as part of a ceremony thing and then be like, oh, no, I can do that to reach out to them. I think I brought this up before, but it's similar to if you've ever read Moby Dick and the main character. I can't think of his name now. The guy that's telling the story.
Mm-hmm. He's Herman Melville wrote it,
right?
But yeah, who's the good question?
So he's hanging out with Queequeg, and he just meets Queequeg, and Queequeg has his little idol that he's praying to, and the guy's like, "Well, he offers the main character guy to, pray to his idol," and the guy justifies it by saying, "Well, if I ever want to Christianize him, I'm going to have to give some, I'll have to give something to him so that I can convert him." And it's like, well, now you've just sullied everything you're trying to convert him to by doing that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so back to the don't eat blood thing. It's spelled out. Everyone will bring up Acts 15 and go, nope, this is what we need to do. This is all they were telling them they needed to do. And it literally has 2, 3 food laws in the list, which don't matter anymore because they'll go right from Acts 15 and go, no, Jesus declared all foods clean. And it's like, then why are they telling them don't eat blood? Why are they telling them don't eat things strangled? Yeah. It's so that's always been a pet peeve of mine because it seems like it should be so clear. So maybe point out that little discrepancy and say, hey, what about this don't eat blood thing? I bet you agree with that because, and then pull them to Acts.
Yeah. No, that's good. And kind of along the lines, there was a lady recently on the Life podcast. I think she's a herbalist. She's an older lady, and she wrote a book, and she talked about how they may have used male and female aborted fetal tissue or something when they made some of these vaccines that were given to children. And her theory is some of these kids that have had the vaccine also maybe sometimes have been gender confused, and it might be something to do with they had this DNA stuff in the vaccine.
From an opposite gender.
Yeah. I
wonder. That's interesting. I never thought of that.
I thought that's right. And then that may be why some of these people so strongly feel like they were born that way and then maybe they were hijacked. So I don't know. I thought that was something
like
to
that,
ponder.
in addition to social contagion aspects of it. Crazy.
Yeah.
Poor kids out there have to get through all this stuff somehow.
And then going back to what you said before about pharmakia, and it is a
Yeah.
version of this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So anyway, that I know some of those can be deep rabbit holes, but that concludes most of Leviticus. There's a little bit more of Leviticus left, and we'll combine Leviticus and put it with Numbers. Numbers, it was harder to find as many juicy verses as we found. And then when we do Deuteronomy, it's so long, we're just going to have to read it.
Yeah. So all the juices discharging from Leviticus, we're going to combine that with Numbers.
Yes, that's
what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Appealing.
Well, we appreciate all of the people that have been in the comments today, that have been commenting, and we have Christina from the UK, Shraka, Blessed and Blooming Homestead, sometimes Jackie, and Two Feathers from KMSR Online Radio, and Beartron, and who else am I not saying? Psalm something?
Psalm 119's on there sometimes, and Humblebee, and all kinds of people. So
we appreciate that. We like interacting with you, and then anyway, I think that's about it. And we do want to thank Christina for getting us a quote page going, and we have some quotes there. If you hear some funny or crazy things that are said and want to put them in writing forever, we have a place to do that on the quote page.
Right, because the internet's forever.
That's right, forever. And you can go, even if it's erased, you can go back to the Wayback Machine.
Yep.
And see it all. All right. Well, Jake, I think that's about it as we draw to close. Anything else?
Nope. That sounds good to me.
All right. This is Matt
and Jake
signing out.